So you've set up your project management space in Fibery. Maybe you used the from scratch video I made a month ago, or you just did it yourself. You have your client set up, your projects, your tasks, your templates, whatever you need. And now your client asks you, hey, this looks really cool. Can I get invited to this space to get a live view on how all the projects are going? Now you're thinking, yeah, of course. But then you realize when you invite them in as a guest, or invite like to their client dashboard, to their client entity, they might see all your internal notes, your little comments about them, and you're like, maybe I shouldn't. This video, we're going to look into how to solve that using a new database for client portal, potentially also project portal, and using automatic linking. You might also need access templates depending on how complex you want to go, but I'll also show at what point it becomes from a standard feature to a pro one. All right. Before we get into that, quick word from our today's sponsor, you. If you need help with Fibery, getting set up, want advice, or not sure how to get started, my email is down below. Feel free to reach out and we can schedule a quick call. Cool. Let's get right to it. Let's get started and look at the project management space we made a couple videos ago. This is what we set up. It has, let's take a look at the databases, client, project, type, task template, task type. So it has stuff like this. This is a project type. Okay. What I recommended last video, because it's the simple way to go, is to create a client access template that gives, when you invite them in as a client, they get access to the projects and the tasks related to this client. This works unless, like we said just now, the client has some internal notes that you don't want them to see. There's no way to give them just access to those notes when sharing the client entity and not access to others. Let's solve this today. Let's make a new database called Client Portal. We're going to have Client Portal linked one-to-one to our client, because it should be, unless it just pulls, it's one-to-one, it's a mirror essentially of the client, but then it pulls only the fields we want to share with the client. So let's create a new relation to client, one-to-one relation. One more thing we want to do is to ensure that every time we create a new client, it creates a new client portal as well. So let's create a rule. Create client portal. Anytime a client is created, we want to add client portal, and yeah, without any specific fields, because we're going to pull them all by formula. All right, that's it. So when we create a new, let's delete this. When we create a new client, let's say Microsoft, it'll automatically create a client portal. Let's set up a name formula. Let's call it client.name plus, actually, just like this, portal. It's going to do Microsoft, not Portal. We wanted to say portal. Cool. Microsoft portal. Now let's say we want to pull some fields from their client. So we've been already using we have everything set up to the client. We'll leave it at that. We don't want to link things manually to the client portal. This is just the entry point for the client, and it should all be done automatically. So let's, for example, say we want to get the all the projects, right? So let's go, okay, from the client, let's get the project. So we got client projects. Now here's the thing. You might think, oh, amazing, this works, except it doesn't. I'll explain why. Because first of all, you cannot show lookups like so are not so powerful. You cannot have multiple relation views, and you can't really control the access to them. So still what you would need to do, if we added access template over here, we need to extend it to client, and then from the client extend it to projects, I think. You know what, let me double check this real quick. Let's see. Client 1, add them in as an editor. Let's create a new project. Gets pulled in over here. Now let's check client 1. We see Microsoft portal, and we see nothing in here, because lookups work a little bit differently than basic fields, and I'll explain a little bit about that in a second. So how do we actually get the projects to show up in the portal? Using automatic linking. All right, so what we do over here now is we set up relation to projects from the client portal of the project, and the client portal can have many projects, and projects have one client portal. And we can just automatically link them based from client that is related to the client of the project. Technically, this is doing the exact same thing as the lookup, but now we have access to control what the client can see from the client portal. We can see that we can now configure their access to projects related automatically. You have to do nothing extra to the client portal. So this is the essence of it. There's a few little gotchas though. Let's discard. Like we said in the first one, lookups do not count as, it's called primitive fields. So fields that are basic, like, let me show you which ones. Text, number, and I think URL, email, phone, location, icon probably as well. Single select fields and multi-selects, I'm not sure, honestly. I think maybe, I'm not sure. There's things that are a bit different. So the lookups, for example, let's delete this lookup. The client will not have access to it, even though it's attached to this client portal. But if we add, for example, I personally prefer using formulas over lookups because they're more flexible. So let's say we want to show the client address. We can say address, and now the client will see the address pulled from the client entity in their portal, even though they don't have access to the client entity. All right, let's do one more as well, just to show it works. Client.people, for instance, people. If we go into Microsoft, we add a couple people. You'll see some work, some don't. I'll explain why as well. Let's say Lisbon. And let me show you as well where it doesn't work. Look up from client, the description of the client. You'll see that won't work, and we'll explain why. This won't show. All right, let's go back to the client, and you'll see they have access to the project. Oh, they don't, sorry, because we didn't extend access. Let's share this, their client portal extended. Cool. They have access to the projects. If we refresh, nice. The people, they don't see the client itself. They technically have the ability to unlink it, which isn't, it's a bit risky, so we don't want to give them edit access here. So let's put that back so that we have it linked in here. That's the essence, like the trick of how to make a client portal and to only have them see the things you want them to see without having them see the things you don't want them to see. Ah, the gotchas. Wait, here, even though here it shows the client description, when we look at lookups, where is it? Lookups over here, it does not show, because lookup fields, when I say lookup fields, I mean lookup fields to collections, so things like too many relations, as well as lookup fields to lookup to rich text, even though it feels like, oh, rich text probably is the same as text, it's not. So if you want to pull rich text, you have to do that by automation, where when one thing changes, it triggers an automation to edit also in the other one, and then just make sure they don't have edit access to it, or else it'll become out of sync. Now, what if, so we made a client portal for them because there's things in the client database we want them to see. What if this is the same situation for the project database? So there might be items in the project database that we don't want them to have access to, like comments of us talking about how things are way overdue, and we don't want them to see that. We want them to get a sanitized view of the projects. We can also do that. Let's create a new database. And by the way, you might be thinking, oh, okay, I understood it, I'm gonna stop watching. There's one more important thing I'm gonna show you as well, is how to bypass the lack of creation for a guest. So generally guests cannot create, so if we look at access templates over here, we can configure what they can view, comment, etc., but we can't let them create new things as a guest. But there is a workaround. I'm gonna show you how to do it right after I set up the project portal. Okay. And then essentially it's the same thing. I just forgot to add one thing here in the rules, that if delete when redundant. So if it's updated, if the client is updated and the client is empty, it should delete itself, because if the client no longer exists, the client portal should also no longer exist. Then we could do the same thing for the project. And again, we add a relation, one-to-one relation to projects. Anytime a new project is created, it creates a new project portal. Pretty similar stuff. I won't do the whole thing here, but what I will do is show you how to allow clients to create new tasks for you within a project. And this is how. So let's add a button, new task. Let's do this in the project database for now, just because we already set up access to that. So let's add a button, new task. Let's see, add task item. Let's say name, ask the user, deadline, maybe timeline, ask the user. That's enough for now. Or you know what, let's also ask it for the assignee. Ask the user. Now, me and you, as people within the workspace, can go into a project, add task, call it whatever we want, give it a timeline, assign users, run, and magically, it gets created. It's pretty self-explanatory. But our guests cannot do that. If we try to, you'll see what happens over here. New task, name, timeline, assignees, run, and there's an error. You can't create an entity task on the task database. Sorry. Well, haha, yes you can. But it needs a bit of a trick. All right, what we're gonna do is we're gonna create a new task name. All the fields we want inputted for this new task, we're gonna add it into the project. Okay. And again, the reason I would do this on a project portal rather than on a project is because we're gonna need to give the client edit access. Because if we give them edit access to the actual project itself, it's a problem. If we give them edit access to the project portal, it's not a problem, because it's just pulling all the fields as read-only fields, because it's formulas from the related project. So that's just something to keep in mind. You know what? I'm going to real quick set that up so you see how it properly looks like, and then we'll be right back. One important thing as I'm building and I'm realizing, we also need to add a relation from the project portal to the tasks, just so that we can run the automation for tasks, because without this thing over here to create a new task, or sorry, add task doesn't exist. There needs to be the relation to actually run the automation. If it rhymes, it's got to be true. All right, so I'm just setting it up again the same way. Name, ask the user for the name, assignees, ask the user, and let's say the timeline as well. Ask the user. Cool. So set it up the same way. We can click this button. Let's rename it to make sense. Add task. We can click this button, guests cannot. But here's the workaround. So we're gonna make a new text field called new task name. We're gonna add a timeline, new task timeline, and we're gonna add assignees. New task assignees. Let's not notify people and allow multiple. Okay, and then one more important thing, we're going to add a checkbox to create task. Here's the thing. Guests cannot create things, but they can trigger automations that will create things. So this is what we're doing here. What we're going to do is have this button, instead of adding something, because it remembers who pressed it, and it will check, okay, who pressed it, can they create or not. Instead, we're going to have it update things. So it's going to update the new task assignees, ask the user. It's going to ask the user for the new task name. It's going to ask the user for the new task timeline, and then it's going to create the task. Let's save this button. Then over here, we're going to create task. When something's updated, specifically the create task, where the create task is checked, we want to add a task. With what items, you might be asking. The name should be the current value of the project portal.new task name. The assignees should be equal to the assignees, new task assignees. You're probably understanding where this is going. The timeline, new task timeline, and that's it. And then we want one more action to clear the fields. So this should be cleared now, this should be cleared now, and this should be cleared now, and potentially also the create task. But I found a little bit of an issue because I think because it's triggered by this, it's not going to let us, this might not run. So I found a bit of a hack around it, but let's see. So now when we run add task, let's say this users, new task name, deadline, run. It's gonna add these, create task, and it does work, perfect. And now it's created this name. It works for us. Does it work for the guest? One important thing as well though, when it says created by, where is it? It doesn't show anything because it was created by an automation. And for the guest, let's take a look at their project portal. I don't think I properly shared the project portals with them though. We need to adjust the automation, so instead of having a relation to projects, they have a relation to project portals. Project portal and automatically link. We need to get the client from the project. So let's add a formula. Where's formula? Formula client. We need to get the project.client. And now we can auto link. So relation to project portal, automatically link client to client. Right. Let's see if there is a project portal here. No. So again, we shouldn't be worrying about this at all. Just when we make a new project in our own views or whatever we want, and we set this to the right client, it automatically makes the project portal for us, and then automatically puts it into the client portal for us. Did I give it to Microsoft? It should. Let's see. No, I gave it to Apple. That's why. Here, and puts it in here. Cool. Now let's check back here. Refresh, and yeah, here it is. Project portal. Moment of truth. Add task. I think it's still not going to work. I want it to work when I'm actually doing it. So why is it not going to work? Because we only have access to the project portal, not the task inside. So this is where we have two options, honestly. We either buy the pro and then give us more complex access templates. We do something like this, extend to project portals to tasks, and then we can add a template and then assign that to the client. Or we do something a little bit different, where we just we give them access with just using extended access one level. We just pull the levels up using auto linking. So let's go over to tasks. I'll show you how that works as well. I will note that's usually slower. So if you have a system with a lot of entries, this method of using formulas will generally be slower at giving access than using the complicated access templates. All right, so essentially, first let's go into the task, and what we want to link is to the client. So let's get a formula to get the client of this task. So we get the client by looking at the project.client. Now we can see the client, then we can link that directly to the client portal with automatic linking. So if we go over here, relations, we want to link to tasks. And again, there's always this question if you want to directly give access to the task, or if you want to have it automatically create a task portal, specifically with fields relevant to that, to the client. And we automatically link client to client. And now the nice thing is that over here under access, we don't need custom access, because under editor, we can just give them the extended, and then it'll give them client portal and the project portal and tasks right underneath, without the need for custom access templates. Nice. We cannot give them like specific. This is not ideal because it also gives them delete access, which we don't want them to do. And we could again then, if we give them commenter, like without custom access templates, there's some limitations. So you might want to pay for the free plan if you're doing complex access if you want to pay for the pro plan if you're doing some more complex access stuff. Like if you want to give them edit access here, but only comment access here, and there's different things you might want to do, then you need custom access templates. All right, that's the essence of it. And now it all just works. Even though technically we gave them access to the tasks, we don't really need to show the tasks. So let's just hide this. The only reason we did that is so that they would get access to it without needing to make an access template, kind of going around the system in that they have access to the tasks over here. So now if we go back to the client, we can see the tasks that are here. And if we add a new task, let's do an example. It'll take a second to show because access templates generally take time to propagate, as well as it needs to do the auto linking first. I think maybe we even need to refresh. We might need a refresh. Let's see. Why isn't it showing? We can check over here who it's shared with. Shared with this. It's not shared with the client. Why? Project, because it wasn't given a project. There's no project here. It got added to a project portal and not to a project. Okay, let's think about this logically. We're not going to be using this space at all, this project portal space, which is for the client. So what we can do is in this rule for create task, we can instead not only add task item into the project portal, but also set the project portal to be the one that it's supposed to be. Okay, not the project portal, sorry, the project to be the one it's supposed to be. All right, now it should work. Perfect. Now when we create a new task, give it everything it needs, run, it does this thing over here, which we can hide all these fields, by the way. We don't need to show these to the client. Come on. Refresh. Hey, there it is. Now it shows. And it's also going to be part of the actual project. The client doesn't see the project, so what we could do is also show the project portal so that the client sees, or we might need to make a task portal as well for them. This adds a bit more to the maintenance of it, but it works, and it works quite nicely. The big downside of it is this access thing, that access doesn't get refreshed. You have to properly refresh the page to get the access that you're entitled to. So no matter how long we wait, I'm pretty sure we'll never see it over here unless we refresh. It's a bit of a downside, but technically we're adding tasks as guests. Pretty nice. All right. If you want this all just set up for you, you don't want to spend the time of needing to understand the relationships and the automations and such, feel free to shoot me a message. My email's in the description and we can have a chat. I hope you enjoyed. I hope it made sense. If you have any questions, let me know, and see you in the next one.